I'm Josh Harris, and you're listening to Clear and Loud, a podcast about the ideas, stories, and voices that are shaping our world. Have you ever had the experience where you see a stranger on the street and they just catch your eye? Like maybe it's the way they're dressed, maybe it's their demeanor, the look on their face, whatever it might be. You're just curious about them. And you're wondering, like, what's the backstory on this person? What does their life look like? What's their story? I had this experience one day as I was browsing TikTok. So I come across this TikTok video by a guy who's sitting behind a microphone, and he's talking about the story behind Netflix thumbnails.
It's also why fans of romance get this Good Will Hunting thumbnail, and fans of comedy get one featuring Robin Williams.
Super interesting. I watch another of his videos. It's about Apple computers.
Apple uses this one writing trick all the time. They tweak.
And I look at his TikTok feed and I'm shocked by the fact that so few people have watched these videos. Like, these are really great videos, great content, interesting, engaging, and nobody's watching them. And so I click on his website and I'm taken down this rabbit trail of trying to figure out, who is this guy? Because he's not just a content creator, he's a business owner. But as I start digging into the business that he runs, I find out that he's not just running one business. He's running multiple businesses in different industries. He's got all kinds of projects and websites that are connected to him. And then I find out that he's also a musician on Spotify. And I'm just asking the question, what is the backstory on this person? Well, here's the really cool thing. The magic of social media. I sent him a direct message on Instagram and asked him to be on the show. And so today I'm interviewing Steve Benjamins, who is a Toronto-based founder who runs multiple companies. You're going to hear about those. And I'm going to ask him, how does he think about himself? Is he a musician on the side, or a musician who has businesses on the side? Is he a business owner? Is he an entrepreneur? If you've ever wanted to start a side hustle, you're going to want to listen to this interview. You're going to want to hang Steve's poster on your bedroom wall, because this guy is the patron saint of side hustles. He's the prince of side hustles. He is so creative, so inventive, and has his hand in so many different things. And this is the conversation we had. I hope you enjoy it. So I discovered you on TikTok.
Oh, no way. Okay.
At the time, you hardly had any views,
Yeah.
which baffled me. My first thought was, why doesn't this guy have millions of views, which you now do?
Yeah.
But I ended up going down this rabbit trail of like trying to figure out who you were. So I was like, I looked at your website, and it just kept taking me to all these different places. And I was like,
yeah.
this guy is really interesting. I was thinking of that Dos Equis commercial about the most interesting man in the world. And I was like, Steve, you're an interesting dude.
Oh, man.
And you've got a lot going on. So here's my first question. How do you think of yourself? Because, do you describe yourself as a business owner? Like if somebody asks you what you do, are you a business owner? Are you a content creator? Are you a musician? Are you an entrepreneur? How do you think about yourself?
That's a really good question. I don't have a great answer for that. I mean, how I self-identify in my own head is a little bit different from how I introduce myself at a party.
Okay, good. Let's hear
Um,
both.
I
what's
don't call myself an entrepreneur. I have a lot of terms that I don't like.
okay, good. Yeah.
Don't love the term entrepreneur. I feel like it's kind of, I don't know. It just seems a little obnoxious. It probably not. It might just be my own hangups. But to me, if someone introduces himself as like an entrepreneur, what I start to think about is some self-promoting. I'm sort of, yeah, just not the type of person I'm super interested in.
Which is funny because you are like a serial entrepreneur,
Right. Yeah, I've started a lot of stuff. That's true. Yeah.
but
Um,
the label this there's like baggage to that for you.
a little bit. Yeah, definitely, definitely some baggage
Okay.
to that. So if somebody asks me what I do, I'll just say I'm a web developer and I make music in my evenings, something like that. Yeah. And if they're more curious, then we can talk more. But it's really difficult to describe yourself to other people if you're doing uh, a variety of different things.
Like I feel like in maybe in past generations, careers were just so clearly defined.
Hmm.
And that's I think why I was so fascinated by you because you got your hand in a lot of different things.
Yeah.
So how do you self-identify? Like what's going on internally?
Internally, I think I would call myself an enthusiast. I get really enthusiastic about a bunch of different things,
Mm,
and I like to try them out, and I like to experiment. Uh, but I get really enthusiastic about novel, new things I can try.
mm,
I guess just an enthusiast is how I self-identify. I'm enthusiastic about starting businesses, so I'll try that.
right.
I was really you said you mentioned you found me on TikTok, and I was like, "Everybody's talking about TikTok. I'm gonna give this a try." I got really enthusiastic about it, and then I don't know, maybe I haven't told you this, I actually quit TikTok a couple weeks ago.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yeah, yeah, so it went I was getting, like, tons of views.
Right.
It was kinda crazy, and I could feel myself kinda getting swept up by this or I was getting lost in this fire hose of, like, feedback. I was getting lots
Right.
in comments and stuff like that.
And people can be brutal on TikTok.
It turns out I don't have the a thick enough s maybe I would develop a thick skin, but you're right, people can be brutal, I was, like, not interested.
One of your videos, I think it's the Netflix thumbnails video, which is
Yeah,
like the story behind how those work, which I thought was fascinating,
yeah.
has over 2,000,000 views.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Was that a
TikTok's reach
wild
is nuts.
experience to have that blow up in that way?
Yeah, that's one of those days where you sort of find yourself opening your phone every 10 minutes just to be like, "Oh my gosh,"
Right. It
telling my
just keeps
partner,
climbing.
"It's going higher, this is nuts." And then you're getting all this feedback from people, uh, like, every minute you're getting a new comment, and, it's, like, intoxicating and a little bit overwhelming. Yeah,
Well, so this is a little bit of a rabbit trail, but
yeah,
on the TikTok, uh, journey that you experienced, which now has come to an end, was
yeah.
there a business side to that? Like, was there more than enthusiasm? Was the idea, if I do this, this will feed into my other work in some way?
Totally. So, I started this TikTok channel, and I was like, "I'm just gonna make, like, short form videos about business stuff." And I was like, "What I really wanna do is launch new businesses on TikTok so people can watch me." So, early on, I made this video. I started an online store selling burlap sacks, and you can get used burlap sacks from coffee roasters.
Hmm.
They'll just give them to you for free. And I was watching a celebrity home tour, and they had, like, framed burlap sacks in their living room, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's so funny. You can get these for free, but people are putting them in their living room. I'm gonna start a website where I sell these and you can browse all the different styles." Um, Long story short, I started this store so that I could make a video about it, and I my idea was I'm gonna make a bunch of videos on TikTok and YouTube where I just start businesses and you can watch me fail or succeed and just try stupid stuff and see what happens.
That's a really cool idea.
Yeah? Ah, thanks, man.
So you tried that and then
And then I realized pretty quickly I was doing videos where I started businesses and shared my personal experience. And then I was doing videos where it was like, find out what website builder Elon Musk used to build the Boring Company website, or find out the story behind Netflix thumbnails, and those would blow up and do way more numbers. So then I started following the algorithm and being like, "Oh, this is what gets me numbers. I'll do more of these." And I
Right.
think that's probably where it started to get a little boring.
Isn't that
Um,
so interesting? Man,
yeah.
the way an algorithm can completely redirect you in terms
Mm,
of your focus and maybe, I don't know, maybe take you off course in some
yeah.
cases is really fascinating. But then you just got so much feedback, you're like, "This is actually a distraction from my other pursuits?"
Yeah. I felt like it was a distraction. I was uncomfortable with the what felt to me like a lot of attention.
Mhm.
I think I just don't want that much attention, to be honest.
Okay.
Or maybe if I'm going to get, attention, I don't want it to be like, "Hey, there's that guy who makes business videos." I'd rather get attention for something a little more, something that, like, reflects me as a human being a little bit better. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. I remember my son saying something to me because I had a video that I did on TikTok, and I'm not really very active on TikTok either,
Mm,
but, I did this video about my daughter getting a tattoo, and it was kind of a cool little story because it was a
yeah.
story of how she took an image of a bird on my grandfather's last painting he did before he died that was in pencil. He hadn't finished the painting, and she took that picture of the bird and got that as her first tattoo, and she's an artist and all these things. So it was kind of like, a little bit of a sappy story, but it just, it got a ton of views. But then all these people started showing up saying these, like, terrible things
No
about
way.
my daughter and about me and all those things, and my son said to me, he's like, "Yeah, TikTok is like this unfiltered response loop where you get what people actually think of you." Because they don't know you, the algorithm
Yeah.
just put you in front of them, and they're just giving you their unfiltered thoughts, which is what people are doing all the time as they think about other people. But usually other sites like Instagram, for example, it's usually your friends that are interacting with you. It's people who are gonna be nice to you. TikTok just puts you in front of millions of people, and millions of people have pretty negative thoughts about you when they meet you.
I'm so curious because you said something there that's interesting, like, TikTok, you're getting people's unfiltered thoughts that people are already thinking in their own internal monologue, but now they're externalizing it.
Mhm.
That's what I think got a little depressing for me, was this idea that everyone's walking around thinking critical thoughts about me privately, but publicly smiling, being polite. So, like, I started to grapple with this question of, like, more fundamental to human nature. Are people just all, like, sort of cynical and just zipping it up, when you meet them in the real world, but give them a shot, and boy, do they have some, like, negative things to say about you. What do you think about that?
That's a good question. I always remember that, there's a scene in one of the Chronicles of Narnia books where I think it's Lucy who she uses this, like, special book that allows her to see what her friends are doing in a particular moment,
Hmm,
and they're kind of, like, talking bad about her.
right.
And Aslan basically says, "You shouldn't listen in on what other people say about you because, you say negative things about people, and that's why it's better not to know."
Right.
And I guess that's sort of true. It's like, it's better not to know the unfiltered thoughts of people out there. We weren't built to be able to handle that. We weren't built as human beings to be able to process that much, feedback,
Yeah.
which is why I think you often see, I think I read about, Selena Gomez, like, hasn't been on the internet for 4 years
I saw
just
that
for her
headline
own
too.
mental health. It's like,
Yeah,
totally makes sense.
that's wise. Yeah.
Completely makes sense. Well, so I guess what I'm curious about is how your journey unfolded. How did you become this enthusiast that's willing to try new things? Like, there are just a lot of people in the world who are terrified of new things,
Hmm.
are terrified of failing. Like, you were gonna start a whole TikTok channel of just, like, starting things, and if they failed, they failed. Like, how did you develop that kind of enthusiasm, that willingness to dive into new ventures, explore different areas, and so on?
If I get outside myself and I try to be objective, I do think yeah, I do start, like, a bunch of different stuff. I think that is true. Uh, and I think I'm not super cerebral about it. I
Hmm,
think that's just always how I've been. When I was in high school, I started all kinds of crazy, businesses. I tried selling, I ordered bootlegged NBA jerseys from China and tried to sell them at the mall. I counterfeited money, um, and it was
Are you
never.
serious? You counterfeited money?
Yeah, yeah, I did. I counterfeited money, and I got it to the point where, it would be accepted in change machines.
Oh my
So
gosh.
I could, put it in a change machine and get change back, and I was in, grade 10, and I told everybody in high school. I was, totally bragging. And, anyway, I very narrowly escaped getting in trouble, decided not to do that. I wasn't trying to make money or try to do crime. I was just like, "I wonder if I could do
I
this."
wonder if I could pull this off. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm really glad you didn't follow that path. This could be a conversation from jail, podcast
Yeah,
from jail.
yeah, who knows? Uh, so I guess what I'm trying to say is, I'm gonna I think I've always been pretty enthusiastic about trying things, and it
Did you get
not
that from your parents? Like, was your mom or your dad an entrepreneur? Like, I know again you don't like that word, but where does that come from?
I think it must be. I mean, my parents could only have helped. My parents are awesome. They're both very encouraging. Um, I remember when I was, 13, we were in a bookstore, and I asked my dad, "Hey, I forgot this PHP, which is a programming language, this PHP book, big, it's like $80. Can you buy it for me? I wanna learn how to computer program." He's like, "Yeah, man, let's do it. I'll get that for you." And,
Wow.
uh, so he was all both my mom and my dad were always very, um, gracious about encouraging my ideas. When I was, 13, I started a web design company, and I asked my parents, how do I do this? How do I find customers in there?" They were like, "You just open the yellow pages and you start calling people."
Oh my goodness.
And so I started calling people, and some, really awesome clown, a professional clown. He was like, "Yeah, I could use a website. Come on over and, uh, we'll talk." Anyways, so my parents were super encouraging. They drove me over. They didn't do any of the work for me, but, they definitely, made sure I was able to follow through on the opportunity. Yeah.
It's wild how, like, when you read the stories of, these famous founders
Yeah.
of big startups, how the supporting, team
Mm.
of family or community and those kinds of things and the resources that not always fancy resources, but yeah, sure, let's buy this book for you. Let's learn this programming language or whatever. Like I think about
Yeah.
someone like Bill Gates happened to be at one of the few schools that had an early computer, or I was reading a biography of Elon Musk, and just the
Yeah.
curiosity at a young age, which someone is somehow supporting
Mm.
and encouraging along the way. So I love that you had that experience. If you enjoy this podcast, show some love to our sponsor, Beanfields. Beanfields are crunchy, mouth-watering chips with full-on flavor. And you can enjoy bag after bag because they're healthy. These plant-based chips are vegan, non-GMO, gluten-free, corn-free, and come in incredible flavors like sour cream, nacho, fiery hot, Korean barbecue, and ranch. They are positively addicting. Visit beanfields.com to order directly or just go to your local Whole Foods or natural food store. What I want to do is if we could have like a little bit of a rapid fire round here, and I
Okay.
want to walk through each of your projects
Sure.
and do a
Yeah.
little Q&A on each of them. Um, and I'll list them, and then I'd love for you to explain what it is and what the business model is. And so the first one is Atlas Maps.
Yeah.
What's the use case for Atlas Maps?
Atlas Maps is it's a software tool that people can use to publish their own maps. They don't need to know how to code or anything to use that. Um, they can just log in and start creating different maps. So we have a whole variety of customers. Our um, our most famous customer is Tesla. So Tesla uses it to create a map of all their Tesla fan clubs across the USA.
Unbelievable.
So there's like a marker for each fan club on the map, and each marker has information.
And so these are like a beautiful Google map style map, and then you can customize it by showing specific locations, whatever kind of location someone would want on
That's
that map.
exactly it. Yes, it's like a beautiful Google map, but you're adding a bunch of different markers.
And so then you would have that customized map with your markers on your website, for example.
Exactly. Like if you were like Home Depot has a store locator
Mm.
where they'll have a page on their website where they have a map of all their different stores. That's a lot of people use us for that kind of thing.
And how did you start this?
I started it like 3 years ago, because a friend of mine, he's a web developer and his agency folded, and, my friend's name is Carl, and it's like, Carl is uh, he's a genius. I think he's like a unicorn. He's an amazing developer. He's also just like a really nice person, type of person you'd wanna start a company with. So, Carl and I, like, put our heads together for the next couple months, and we're like, "What could we build together?" And we came across the idea for Atlas Maps because, I do a lot of SEO work, and it
Mm.
turns out there's like tens of thousands of people every month searching for map maker or how to create a custom Google map, and it was kind of an underserved, like, group of people. So we just we started there, and then we started building it, and in building it, we got really enthusiastic about the
Mm.
idea, and now we feel like it seems pretty clear that, like, going forward, people are just gonna make more and more digital maps for all sorts
Yeah.
of different things, so if we can just get behind this growing wave, I think we should be good, so
So really the SEO informed it. Like you were looking for the right idea to build and you saw that all these people were searching for something and really not finding the perfect solution. So you decided to build the solution.
that's exactly it. That's right, yeah.
And so what would the wave of where do you think the wave of growth would come from? Are these primarily businesses or franchises or I mean, what are some of the different ways that you'd see growth?
I think we recently went over about 1,000 customers, so now we've got, like, a pretty good idea of who's using us,
Yeah,
and right now, it's a lot of, like, retail stores,
right.
breweries who wanna say, like, "Here's where you can find our IPA," and then a lot of, like, real estate developers or property owners or, Airbnb owners,
Oh, amazing.
that kinda thing.
So you could have like like you said, a brewery where they're actually listing the grocery stores or the liquor stores where you can find their stuff. Oh, that makes so much sense.
That's exactly right, yeah,
Amazing. Very
uh,
cool.
and we just feel like people are gonna be making more and more digital maps, so it just feels like there are use cases down the road that we haven't imagined yet that if we
Mhm.
keep pulling at this piece of string, I think more things will start to fall. If that does that analogy make sense?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I just feel like if anybody at Tesla is listening, I feel like they should be like using Atlas Maps to also show their charging station locations.
Oh, yeah, exactly, that's a great use case. Yeah.
All right. Well,
Hit me
someone
up,
from
Elon.
Tesla call Steve.
Yeah,
Um, okay, so the next project, sitebuilderreport.com. What's the
yeah.
what's the elevator pitch for this business?
This is a business I started, like, 8 years ago,
Okay.
um, when I just, basically, when I needed money, I was super poor.
You
Didn't
because
have.
you stopped counterfeiting money.
Yeah, I exactly, the counterfeit.
You needed real cash.
Needed real cash. I was
Uh,
living in some crummy $400 apartment in Toronto, and I was like, I needed money. And so I started, like, 6 different businesses, just trying to find a way to make money, and Site Builder Report was one of them, and it in my head, I was like, "I just need this thing to make, like, $40,000 a year. If I can just hit that, I will
right.
never ever need to earn more money than that." And it hit that, like, within a year and a half,
Oh, amazing.
and that was just a really special moment. Um, I feel like I haven't described it yet. It's basically an affiliate website. I review website builders, tools like Squarespace and Wix, and I give my readers my honest opinion about what I think is best.
And
Uh,
so you probably have just like amazing domain authority, SEO on that. where when people are looking for the right web builder,
Yeah.
you're the source. And so then your income is coming from advertisers or
Ye
affiliates?
yeah, no affiliates.
Oh, so if they read your review and they're like, "Yeah, Squarespace is for me," you're then making money from them signing up with Squarespace.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Dude, that is brilliant.
It kind of walks an ethical gray line, to be honest. Like, I will often get website builders saying, "Hey, if you put us number 1, we'll double you whatever the number 1 person is paying you."
Oh, man.
It's a as you would expect, it's a pretty greasy industry. But it makes me enough money to where I don't need to
Mm.
be dishonest in that way.
The other
Yeah.
thing I just wanna say is your sites are so clear, so clean. I mean, what I obviously kind of my focus is, helping people with their messaging, building their sites, and yours are just, like, top notch. Is
Oh,
is
thank
that is
you.
that just from your background of doing lots of sites for other people over the years? Do you do your own writing, like, when you build these?
I do all the writing and design work, so I really appreciate that, yeah.
Amazing.
Um, yeah, I'm glad to hear you think that it comes across clear because,
Oh, for sure.
as you know,
Yeah.
writing is difficult.
No, it's really tough. I mean, it makes sense if you're handling both sides of it, if you're doing the development and the design and the copy that you can really hit the mark so well. Okay, but we're not done yet.
Okay.
The next project, number 3, giftology. What is giftology?
Giftology is a really just a side thing that I started where, um, it's just articles sharing gift ideas, and it's also an affiliate website. So, if you were to search, like, gift ideas for a 60th birthday for women, Giftology would come up first, and we have, like, 40 gift ideas for you. I don't spend any time, like, writing or even working on this website. I have a few writers who do, like, between them, I think, like, 15 articles a month or something like that. And it's sorta just in the background chugging along. I think it makes, like, a couple $1,000 per month, which is, really nice. Um, it's just sort of a kind of a little side hustle type thing, I guess.
Incredible.
Uh,
So
yeah.
you're just steadily building up the catalog of ideas for different ages and different people and so on.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And you kind of alluded to domain authority
Mm,
a few minutes ago, and
yeah,
I do find that that's something I return to a lot in my businesses where uh I'll start a content website, and I find if you just give it a couple of years, you can
yeah.
really build up a lot of momentum, and they can be pretty lucrative if you're patient.
Well, and
Be
also if you're truly helpful, like I think the
mm,
whole thing with sitebuilderreport.com is that you're actually giving these honest evaluations of the pros and cons of these different um, site builders. And if you were actually helpful, I mean, it's similar on social media. If you actually
yeah.
produce helpful content, people want to see it and it starts showing up. Project number 4, love the humanities.
Oh, yeah. This
Am
is
I like reminding you of projects you've forgotten about?
no, I don't know what my reaction is about,
Uh,
but this is, I studied philosophy in university, and when I left university, I always wanted to read more philosophy, but philosophy can be quite dense to read just by
mm,
yourself. It's
yeah,
often helpful to have a teacher to guide you along. So, I started this website called Love the Humanities, where I was selling lectures from people who had graduated with their PhD, and had written a thesis maybe on this book. And I only have 1 lecture up, but this again sort of goes back to my idea of just, like, creating content, letting it sit there for a couple of years.
right.
This lecture, I think it gets purchased, like, 4 or 5 times a month, and it's all driven by this YouTube video that we put out there 4 years ago, that just gave, like, a 2-minute overview of the lecture. So we put that out 4 years ago, and it just continues to sell stuff.
Incredible.
Yeah. Do you do YouTube videos or anything like that?
I did. I did this funny thing where when I stepped down from being I was a pastor for a number of years and
Yeah.
just kinda hit a wall and was burnout and needed a break, and so I went to seminary, which might not have been the best idea. But, I went to seminary, but I focused on a more creative aspect of things. So it was like
Mm,
Christianity and the arts and so on. And, for one of my classes, you were able to create your own kind of creative project, and I
mm.
decided to do 40 YouTube videos
Oh.
and, I actually made the rule that I couldn't shave my beard until I finished these. So I ended up having this massive beard and was going around Vancouver making all these crazy videos. They were all over the map, but it was a ton of fun, but not very useful in terms of, for from a business standpoint, it wasn't actually, pointing to anything in particular. Now I've taken all those down, so they're
Have
not
you?
there, but
Okay.
yeah. Well, it when you're talking about this, it made me ask the question. Maybe I'm just trying to pull you back into TikTok because I actually
Yeah.
think you create great content on TikTok. But have you thought about doing a similar thing where you create TikToks that are just there to, potentially get picked up and point to key aspects of your multiple businesses?
Yes. So we talked about giftology,
Mm,
and I shot a few TikTok videos, and each video would be showcasing, like, a cool gift idea.
yeah.
Like, I think the last one I was working on is, a Lego set of the Seinfeld set.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
I was like, "Oh, that's kind of fun." Like, that
It's
could
just, yeah, it's quirky and interesting, right?
exactly, right? That could go viral. So yeah, I tried that. I don't think I had enough enthusiasm, so that kinda burnt out.
Yeah, yeah,
But I'm super bullish on TikTok. It seems like you can build a huge audience so quickly.
yeah.
It's a crazy opportunity if you can find the right way to leverage it.
And it's starting to be, like, you can search for certain terms, and TikTok videos will now show up on Google. Is that right?
Oh, that makes total sense. Yeah, there you go. I mean, that right there increases the lifespan of this content.
Right, right, interesting.
I did release so this big TikTok account that I had, I was also putting the videos on Instagram and YouTube Shorts, and they
Okay,
did, like, nothing on those 2 platforms, but then on TikTok, they exploded.
right.
So I do think there is some kinda algorithmic magic that's making TikTok just, like, a really valuable place for creators right now.
Yeah, for businesses, it seems like it just makes so much sense. I mean, I
Yeah.
see, like, videos that Gary Vee does where he's talking about, like, a dump truck company is on TikTok and they're, exploding and doing all this stuff. So it's just I think it's like getting over the hump of not just thinking about it as teens doing dances. Like, it's just
Mm,
whatever content you could possibly create. Um, and I just think that there's something about the structure of TikTok that's so powerful for storytelling, because
mm,
there's an arc and a beginning and an end, and it's kind of I don't know, the algorithm encourages like hooky kind of interesting storytelling in a way that's different than Instagram, for example. I mean,
s
Instagram has Reels, so it's trying to duplicate that.
yeah,
But like from the very beginning, there's like this fun, informative story aspect that just makes TikTok so addictive, number one.
mm,
Um, but then I think, just a great way to share your information, even if you've got a real niche business,
yeah.
it's yeah.
When you think about narrative on TikTok,
Mm.
because I have a feeling you think about story and narrative more than I do, to be really like, what would be, like, an example of that? Is that like a narrative through a 1-minute video or a narrative as you follow an account?
I'm thinking of the narrative of the actual video itself. I mean, it could
Yeah.
be a 7-second video, it could be
Mm,
a minute long. Even a dance, if you think about it,
mm,
has a narrative flow.
yeah,
Like, there are certain moves it's just so silly that I'm talking about this, but there are certain moves to a dance that
yeah,
everyone is doing on TikTok to a particular song.
mm,
And so you can get sucked into watching people do the same dance just because you're curious how they're what their facial expression is gonna be or, whatever it might be. And,
mm,
so I think within the video itself, there's actually a narrative structure that's
mm,
often built in. And then the videos where someone's speaking, the ones that pull you in they lay out some challenge or problem or some promise, and
Yeah.
then you're kind of curious how that's gonna be resolved, and then the really good ones get into, like, multiple loops of that, where they, like, lay out one issue, and then they start answering that, and they lay out another one, and then you're just waiting for the, you know, the fix at the end, like, how is this gonna be answered? How is this gonna get worked out? So, it's, that's kinda stuff I can geek out on that all
Yeah,
day.
that's really
Yeah.
interesting. That gets me thinking. That's really cool.
Well, we got 2 more on the list of projects to get through. You already talked about the burlap sacks, but I'm just curious how that ended. You started this business just to tell the story on TikTok. What actually happened with the burlap sacks?
So I was selling these burlap sacks for a couple months. I was actually selling like about $1,000 worth of burlap sacks every month, and I would like box them up, ship them, do all that. Um, and then you know what? I kind of just hit a wall one day where I was like, "This is stupid. This business makes no money. I've got some far-flung idea of like taking my experience running this business and turning it into a video, but I'm still feel like I'm a long ways off from doing that." Um, so that was one of those moments where it's like you kind of self-reflect. You're like, "Oh, I got way too much stuff going on. I gotta
Right,
curate this a little bit."
right.
Uh, so I shut it down that day, and I could feel my stress levels like drop, and
Yeah.
it's a good decision.
Okay, that makes sense. Well, the last one, and maybe you don't think about this as a business, but what you do on Spotify, Steve Benjamin's music.
Yeah,
Which one of your TikTok videos is actually about how you have like a steady income stream from Spotify, even though you don't consider yourself a professional musician, you don't tour,
yeah,
that
yeah.
kind of thing. What's your experience on Spotify?
I've been releasing music for like 8 years, on the internet, and like you said, I don't tour, I don't do anything like that. But I now make like $800 a month from like streaming royalties on Spotify, which is like the best thing ever because I'm an indie artist. If I was on a record label, you know, they would get like whatever 80% of that, but I get all $800,
That's awesome.
which is great. And you don't, no one makes music for money, but $800 a month means I like get to break even. I get to work with, um, I get to hire my friends to produce it and stuff like that, and I get to pay them fairly. So yeah, I love making music. It's something uh, probably just keep doing.
And so
But
how often will you release new music on Spotify?
I release about 6 songs a year, so every 2 months or so, I'll release a new song. And I don't release albums; I just release individual songs. That's the cadence that sort of works for me. Yeah,
And do you release to other platforms, or you just use Spotify and you like the way that they reward artists? How does that work?
I release everywhere. Like if you'll take my music, I'll put it on your platform.
Mhm.
But, Spotify's about, like, 90% of my total streams, and Apple Music's the other 10%, and everything else is a decimal point from there. So Spotify is just really um seems to be the big streaming service for my music.
So, I don't really understand this world,
Yeah.
but is that normal for, like, an indie artist to be getting even that amount monthly? Or are you using your knowledge of, SEO and those kinds of things when it comes to Spotify and going, "I wanna create this kind of music because I know there's a market for it," or are you just doing what you love, creating the music you love, and there just happen to be other people out there that are eating it up?
I definitely do not approach it as, like, a marketing problem where it's like, "What do
Mm.
people want and what can I provide?" Because I mean, that would be, I'll leave that for, like, business and stuff like that. For me, the music is like, yeah, totally, like,
That's a
go
creative outlet, yeah.
yeah, this is a creative outlet. This is an opportunity for me to find things that, like, move me and
Right.
try to try to make things that move me and share them with the world. If people like them, that's cool. If they don't, that's cool too. Um, so I have no idea how many other, like, just,
Yeah.
uh, like, people in their basements making music and, like, earning $800 a month there are out there. I would love to know that. Um, so yeah, I don't know how unusual it is. It's a good question. Yeah.
It's really cool. I mean, I listened to some of your music. If you would give us permission, could we play a clip of one of your songs on
Oh,
the show?
definitely, I would love
Which
that.
song should we play? Maybe we'll end out the podcast with whatever song you like.
I got a song called "Circles," and that's sort of my big hit.
Okay,
S
awesome.
I
All
would
right.
so I'd say go with that.
Hey, hearing all of these, these different projects, the the question that I want to ask you, and you talked about this when you said you shut down the burlap sacks project, but how do you allocate your time and energy when you have these different projects? And I know many of them are not ones that call for much of your time, but even Atlas Maps and sitebuilderreport.com, or maybe you probably have ideas for others. How do you
Yeah.
think through what gets attention and how you spend your time?
For me, it's not, um, a very cerebral thing. I just follow my enthusiasm, so,
Mm,
um, if I feel like working on something, I'll work on it. And if I don't feel like working on it, then I'll leave it, and after, like, a few months, I'll probably feel motivated to work on it again. There are definitely things that need to be done, and I'll make sure those get done, but otherwise, I think I'm mostly just following my enthusiasm.
I love that
Uh,
phrase. That's so cool.
yeah, yeah, I like that. That's what feels comfortable to me. So, I feel like a lot of people are waking up to this. I maybe work on a good day 6 hours,
Mm.
and, like, most days, I feel like I'm doing, like, 4 to 5 hours of, like, good, honest intellectual labor, sitting at my computer getting stuff done. And so for me, like, the first 4 hours, Monday to Friday are pretty sacred. That's when I get stuff done.
Mhm.
Um, so for me, day to day, that's yeah, like, if I can get my 4 to 5 hours in the morning, I'm usually pretty happy.
And are
Uh,
you blocking that for are you just, like, doing everything, or do you have days where you focus on one project? How does that break down?
yeah, I in my head, I call them sprints. I'll do a sprint, which for me is like a couple weeks focused on one project, and then
Interesting.
I'll move my focus to another project. And I find that works for me if I'm working on just one thing. Uh, I can get I grow tired of it. For me, it's like it's energizing to move between project to project.
Right.
I know not everyone is wired that way. I'm amazed at people who can do like a PhD thesis, for example, uh,
Or one
just to be
topic where they're
focused on.
just, like,
That's
focused
what
on
I'm
that
trying to
for
say.
years, yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah,
How do you choose how you partner with people? Because I know with some of the projects you've done, like with Atlas, your friend,
yeah.
was a big part of that. What's your advice about having partners for projects and startup ideas?
That's like I've had said I've really changed my thinking on that. I think a partner is different than an employee.
Mm,
And a partner is should be somebody who's a friend, somebody who you trust, someone who's probably kind. You don't want to. It's such a cliche, but it's probably not terribly different from like the type of things you might look for in a spouse, I guess.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, kind, someone who you trust. And the table stakes are they have to be competent. But I think everybody already knows that.
I guess my last question is for the person who hears you talk about your interesting work lifestyle and is like, "Oh, man, I wish I could have that, but I'm in this job and all I know is, a certain way of working and so on." Um, and they wanna venture out with an idea. They wanna start, a side hustle or one day
Mm,
have their own business.
yeah,
What would you encourage them to do or think about in that process?
you just got to start something. You just got to go try it. You got to do something. I think. Uh, as much as possible. You gotta get your reps doing things. I think we can really get sucked into, like, this entrepreneur porn and a lot of this, like,
Mm,
hustle culture, and there's this whole I remember I don't know if this quote might be apocryphal, but I read in the Harvard Business Review, they did this issue on failure, and they had this book publisher who, like he said, like, "All the evidence suggests business books are like romance novels. They're more about like fantasy and escapism. I don't really know, like, do book publishers actually think that? I don't know, but I think I kind of it kind of identifies like a key thing, which is I think you can get lost thinking about this stuff too much. When at the end of the day, it's a practice. So just go out there and do it. Does that make sense? What do you think?
It makes so much sense, and I love your focus on enthusiasm. Like you're
Mm.
following your enthusiasm. My dad used to do a lot of teaching around delight directed study, which is a
Oh yeah.
similar idea. Like
Huh.
when you care about something, you're going to study, you don't even notice that you're doing all this homework because it's your passion. And I see that in your life. Like you've followed your enthusiasm and have created these great businesses along the way. So I just feel like I can't wait to see the future things you're a part of, and I love the fact that even though you are an amazing entrepreneur, you're not bragging about that or trying to show off. You're just following your enthusiasm, building
Oh, I love
amazing
it.
things.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
A long time ago, when the world was still cooling, an angel of God ran away from her high home, collapsed and rebuilt. How the world recreates you in fits and in starts. Through lost life is born. Down in the streets that she moves in and out of, comfortably close. How the wind blows right through her. When night settles in, she would look out her window, a sky full of signs she would trace by a hand. You may think you owe a debt, but no one is holding it. Called you bastard, called you child. I'm sorry, I am sorry. Born at the break of the world's first dawn, darkest songs pass through your tongue. You will see a glorious day. I'm sorry, I am sorry.
Thanks for listening to the Clear and Loud podcast. I'm your host, Josh Harris. Our producer is Pam Cameron, and this episode contains music by Jeremy Yaddo at Music for Podcasts. If you like what you hear, give us a boost by subscribing or leaving a review on Spotify or Apple or wherever you listen. We'd also love your feedback on today's episode. Or if you have a question you'd like addressed on a future episode or a guest you'd like us to consider, email us at hello@clearandloud.com. You can also shoot us a direct message on Instagram. Our handle is @clearandloud. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.